In 2013,
What does the frog say?
the world saw the most expensive burger in history. Its price was over $300,000. It wasn't adorned with gold or diamonds. Its uniqueness was something else. It wasn't born on a farm but in a petri dish. Today, little over a decade later, this technology is on the verge of mass production. This is the food of the future, created in bioreactors guided by artificial intelligence. It promises us a paradise on Earth, an end to hunger, the salvation of our climate, and perfect health. But could this paradise become the most terrifying dystopia we have ever created?
It's cleaner, safer, and more sustainable. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
He's got a point. And the first problem isn't even scientific. It's psychological. It all starts with cellular agriculture. So how do you actually make meat without an animal? It sounds like magic, but it's a fascinating and precise biological process broken down into a few key steps. First, the source. It all begins with a small painless biopsy from a live, healthy animal. No slaughter is required. A sample of tissue no bigger than a sesame seed contains all the genetic information needed. Next, scientists isolate the VIPS from this sample, the specific stem cells that have the natural ability to multiply and regenerate into different tissue types like muscle and fat. These chosen cells are then placed into a bioreactor, which is essentially a 5-star hotel for cells. Inside, they are fed a warm, nutrient-rich liquid called media. It's a perfect buffet of everything a cell needs to thrive: proteins, sugars, fats, vitamins, and minerals. In this perfect environment, the cells do what they do best: they multiply. From a few thousand, they grow into billions and then trillions, creating a dense, protein-rich mass. But a soup of cells isn't a steak. To create texture, the cells are grown on or around an edible scaffold, a 3D structure often made from plant proteins. This scaffold acts like a microscopic gym, guiding the cells to form into muscle fibers and fat, mimicking the complex structure of real meat. Finally, the grown tissue is harvested. It's real meat, identical at a cellular level to the meat from an animal. It's then formed into the familiar shapes we all know: a burger patty, a chicken nugget, or the perfect steak. And this is where AI comes into play. It doesn't just optimize the nutrient broth, it also helps model the ideal 3D structures of this scaffolding. It's a digital sculptor creating the perfect marbling of a steak at the nano level. The next step is precision fermentation. But what about milk, cheese, and even eggs? The solution here is arguably even more powerful. It's a technology we've been using for thousands of years, just supercharged for the 21st century. Think about how we make beer or bread. We take a simple microorganism like yeast, give it some sugar to eat, and it produces something new for us: alcohol and CO2. Precision fermentation is the same idea, but on a godlike level. Instead of just letting the yeast do what it wants, we hack it to produce almost anything we can imagine. It all starts with data. Scientists find the specific gene in an animal's DNA that acts as the blueprint for desired protein. For example, the gene that tells a cow how to make casein, the key protein that makes milk. Step 2, the hack. This genetic blueprint is then inserted into the DNA of a simple microbe, like yeast. The yeast is now programmed. It has received a new instruction manual. Instead of producing just alcohol, it now knows how to produce perfect milk protein. These programmed microbes are then placed in a fermentation tank, essentially a high-tech brewery. They are fed simple plant-based sugars from corn or sugarcane. Inside the tank, the microbes feast on the sugar and, following their new genetic instructions, they produce vast quantities of the target protein. They become tiny biological factories churning out pure milk protein, egg white protein, or even collagen. Finally, the product is harvested. The liquid is filtered, completely separating the protein from the microbes. The result is a pure, clean powder that is biologically identical to the protein from an animal. It's important to note, the final product itself is not a GMO. AI, by analyzing billions of genetic combinations, finds the most effective way to turn ordinary yeast into a super producer. Even in the world of plants, a quiet revolution is underway. This isn't your traditional farm. In fact, it doesn't even need soil or natural sunlight. Welcome to the world of vertical farming, where food is grown in stacks inside skyscrapers right in the middle of a city. And it's done using several incredible soilless methods. First, there's hydroponics. The hydro means water. Instead of soil, the plant roots are placed directly into a nutrient-rich water solution. Think of it as a custom-made IV drip for plants, delivering exactly what they need, right to their roots 24/7. Next, it gets even more sci-fi with aeroponics. Here, the aero means air. The roots hang freely in the air, and every few minutes they are sprayed with a fine, nutrient-rich mist. It's the most efficient method, using up to 98% less water than traditional farming. It's essentially a spa day for plants. Finally, there's aquaponics, the most organic of the high-tech methods. It's a perfect self-contained ecosystem. You have a tank of fish below. The fish produce waste, which is rich in ammonia. Bacteria convert this waste into nitrates, a perfect natural fertilizer for plants. This water is pumped up to the plants, which absorb the nutrients, cleaning the water. The clean water then flows back down to the fish. A perfect loop. And the head agronomist here is, again, AI. It can even create stress for the plants. For example, by slightly changing the light spectrum to force basil to produce more essential oils and become more aromatic. This is total control over nature. According to research, transitioning to lab-grown meat could free up to 99% of the land currently used for grazing. Water consumption could be reduced by 96%. We are on the cusp of an era of functional food. Imagine milk engineered to be enriched with rare microelements, meat without a single hormone or antibiotic, the complete elimination of food poisoning risks and zoonotic diseases like bird flu or swine flu. And what if we could create tastes and textures that never existed in nature? 3D food printing will allow chefs to become true architects. This is the end of cuisine as we know it and the beginning of something entirely new. But can we bring ourselves to eat it? For millennia, we've been taught that food should be natural. Is this not Frankenstein's food? A product born in the unnatural environment of a lab? The food apocalypse, dangers to our bodies and future generations. But the main crash might be hiding not in the economy, but in our own cells. This clean food could be a Trojan horse for our health. Isn't this just a new extreme form of ultra-processed food? Cultured meat is the apex of this approach. Cells grown in an artificial serum mixed with artificial fats, flavorings and colorings. Our bodies evolved for millions of years in a dirty world. What will happen to our gut microbiome when we switch to food grown in completely sterile conditions? Could this lead to a new generation of autoimmune and psychological disorders? To grow, the cells are fed a complex nutrient serum. Its exact composition is a trade secret. It often contains growth factors, hormones. What are the long-term effects on our own hormonal balance? In essence, we are agreeing to eat a product whose full list of ingredients we do not know. And here is the most alarming question. The cell lines used are immortal and divide thousands of times. It's like making a copy of a copy. With each division, tiny genetic errors or mutations can occur. Could these accumulated mutations years from now lead to the formation of new unknown proteins? Proteins that could cause severe allergies? To understand the deepest, most terrifying risk of our food future, we must first look to the past, to the 4 people of New Guinea and a horrifying plague they called Kuru. the shivering death. It was a relentless neurological disease. The cause was a complete mystery. The truth was discovered. The disease was spread through the ritualistic consumption of the brains of their dead. The infectious agent wasn't a virus. It was something stranger, a single misfolded protein, a prion, a biological zombie that acts as a template, forcing healthy proteins to adopt its own deformed shape, creating a catastrophic chain reaction that turns the brain into a sponge. Now look at this. This is the brain of an Alzheimer's patient, and scientists are now realizing it's a disturbingly similar story. Not an infection from the outside, but a rebellion from within. Two proteins, amyloid beta and tau, begin to misfold and clump together, creating plaques and tangles that, just like prions, trigger a chain reaction of cell death. The brain begins to starve and decay. So what's causing this internal rebellion? A growing number of scientists point to our modern diet. They now call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. The theory is that our diet, saturated with sugar and processed carbs, creates insulin resistance in the brain. The brain cells can no longer get the energy they need. This state of energy starvation is believed to be the perfect storm, the ideal environment for these proteins to misfold and begin their destructive cascade. And this brings us back to the lab with a terrifying new perspective. If our current natural food system is already implicated in a prion-like disease, what unknown risks are we introducing with food created in a bioreactor? Could the immortal cell lines dividing for years or the secret recipe of the growth serums create the conditions for a new type of misfolded protein? Are we trying to solve one problem only to risk creating a 21st century version of the cannibal's curse? Economic collapse and the disappearance of culture. This isn't just about job losses, it's the potential death of entire cultural layers. Traditional farming, winemaking, cheese making, these are arts passed down through generations. Today you buy a chicken. In the future you might be buying a license to use patented chicken cells from Corporation X. And finally, is it really that eco-friendly? Bioreactors and vertical farms require a gigantic amount of energy. If this energy is produced by burning fossil fuels, we are simply trading methane from cows for CO2 from power plants. But the future of food isn't just about recreating what we already know. It's about inventing something entirely new. And the award for the most sci-fi food goes to protein made from thin air. Yes, you heard that right. A Finnish startup, Solar Foods, is using a special microbe that feeds on carbon dioxide from the air and hydrogen split from water. Using electricity, they trigger a process similar to fermentation, and the microbes multiply, creating a rich, nutritious powder called solane. It's food made from electricity and air. It's a miracle of science that will likely taste, well, like a miracle of science. If food from air sounds too abstract, how about a more crunchy solution? For centuries, billions of people have eaten insects as a source of protein. Now the West is finally catching on, rebranding them for the modern consumer. Meat insect flour. Crickets and mealworms are farmed, dried and ground into a high-protein powder that can be used to make anything from pasta to protein bars. They require a tiny fraction of the land and water needed for cattle, making them an incredibly sustainable superfood. And if you can get past the fact that you're eating a bug, they're probably right. Probably. Finally, we return to the world of GMOs, but with a twist. These aren't plants designed to resist pesticides for corporate profit. These are plants designed to save your life. This is golden rice. It's genetically engineered to produce beta-carotene, a source of vitamin A. It was created to combat vitamin A deficiency, which causes blindness and death in hundreds of thousands of children every year. And this is the purple tomato. It's engineered to produce high levels of antioxidants normally found in blueberries, which may help fight cancer and heart disease. This creates a fascinating ethical dilemma. if you're against GMOs, are you also against a technology that could prevent childhood blindness or reduce the risk of cancer? The line between unnatural and life-saving is getting very blurry. So we return to where we began. The perfect burger, born not in a farm, but in a lab. After this entire journey through the utopian promises and the dystopian fears, the question remains the same. Would you eat it? The answer isn't simple, because as we've seen, this is not a choice between a perfect natural past and an imperfect artificial future. It's a choice between two deeply flawed systems. It's a choice between the known risks of our current food system, climate change, animal suffering, and the chronic diseases potentially lurking in our modern diet, and the completely unknown risks of the new one. A choice between a decentralized but inefficient natural world and a centralized, efficient but fragile technological one. This revolution isn't just about food, it's about control. It's about our willingness to rewrite the very code of life to solve the problems we created. It's about trading a certain kind of natural chaos for a new kind of calculated order. The food of the future promises to be safer, cleaner, and more sustainable, but it will also be patented, programmed, and controlled in ways we are only beginning to understand. So the final question isn't just what will we eat, it's who will we become when our food has a firmware version,